Hi, I'm Jake, and today we're going to make a circle cutting jig for the bandsaw. So my name is Jake. I do lots of resin casting. I make hybrid blanks, wood stabilizing, a lot of resin work. So if you like that kind of thing, subscribe for more. And I got these burls from Worldwide Burl. They're off Instagram, and they have auctions every single day for stuff like this. My next project, I need to put this into this. So I could kind of put a line around there and kind of get it, but need to step my game up. You can buy circle cutting jigs, but if you have some scraps around the shop, why not use them in practice and get better? So I'm going to show you what I have so far, and we'll go from there. So I went around the shop and I found a sheet of 3/4 inch plywood, some old T-track off an old project, some cherry strips off of old cutting boards, and I'll show you what I did with that. I just put some CA glue and some activator on there, some Starbond thick set, and the only thing I went and bought was a tightening knob, a washer, and a nut. That won't fit in there yet, but we're going to make it fit, and we'll go over that in a second, and some self-drilling screws. And that'll be clear here in a second also. First thing I need to show you what this is all about. Most bandsaws are going to have a track right here, and I cut this to go in there nicely, and it's just below the surface. And then I cut this one so it would fit in this notch here, and so the object is so it will stop when it goes in. And I think that accomplishes that. So the next step is we're going to put this piece of plywood up here. We're going to make a curve. And I really didn't measure this out or anything. You can take your time and make plans, and there's a lot of them online. But this is a scrap wood thing. And so I'm just going up here, and I'm going to set my fence to where I like it. And I'm just using the fence as a reference right now. So this will go here. And I wanted some room over on this side for that knob. We'll talk about that in a second. I'll have room back here to clamp this down if I want to. And then I'll have something over here to glue that stopper to. And I think the next thing I need to do is mark off here. So I want this to go straight across from our blade. And I want the middle of this to go to the front of this blade. So basically I'm going to go there, I'm going to get a square. So I'm going to square it with this curve. I don't know if this is square or that square. This is a scrap piece. So I'm going to square this to the blade. We've already made a mark right there. I'm going to call that good. And this will become clear here in a second how I want to do this. So I really think the first thing I need to do is cut that out. I could use a dado stack in my table saw, but not everybody might have one of those. So I'm going to use a router. I'm going to set up some fences here, or I'm going to set it up and do it with a router. Should be pretty easy. I'm going to use a flush trim bit. That bearing will ride on these. These are scrap pieces of wood. I'll draw out the line for that T-track. So I'm going to put these on the lines. I'm going to tape them down and see if that'll work. If not, I'll screw them down. That's the bit I'm going to use. This fits in here plenty good enough for me. It's a little loose, but that's okay. But that's a little thin, and I can just move that like that. So what I'm going to do is I found this scrap piece of wood here. It's probably 1/2 inch, and I'll laminate it to the bottom of this, and that'll fix that. Here we go. I'll come back later and get this. We're almost done. So I could have just screwed that to it until the glue dried, but I didn't. I used weight. So this little box of screws, self-tapping screws right here that I've talked about earlier, what I want it for is to go into that T-track just like that, and I'll try to get a close-up for you. We're just going to screw right in. I'm going to get some 5-minute epoxy and then screw it in there and let it dry while the other stuff is drying. Since I had to make this thicker, I needed a bigger bolt on this knob, so I just so happen to have one, and there it is. So I'm going to drill a hole right here at the very end of this because I want this to hang off of the edge of the saw and I have room to turn. So I'm going to drill a hole right there, and then I'm going to have to make this nut fit in that T-track. So we're going to do that. That's pretty good. So I'm going to turn this blade on and push it in there till it's right even with the front of the blades, even with that. And then we'll know where to go. So here we go. This one thing we talked about earlier sits below the surface of the bed here, so I was able to find a couple pennies. And so I'm going to put them down there and put super glue on here, and it'll be just enough to get it stick, and I'll reinforce it with some screws. So I'm going to use the Starbond thick set for this again, and we don't have to do much. And that's on there, it's sitting flat. I'm just going to wait for it to give a little while to set up. So now what that's going to do is it's going to give us a straight way to go underneath there, and it's going to give us a stop, so we stop at the same time. And then just so you get an idea of what's really going on, I have this knob underneath here, and I can make this circle as big as I want to that big. How big is that? We're going to find out for the first time right now. That's a little over 11 inches to the tip of that screw. So that's a 22-inch circle. So the purpose of having this self-tapping screw is I can get another screw, and whatever I'm going to turn into the circle, I can use that screw and just screw it in there, is my way of thinking. So we'll find out if I'm wrong or not, but last thing to do is to see if this thing works. Just found a random piece of scrap wood. I'm going to locate somewhere in the center and self-tap this. I've never used one of these, so bear with me. that went extremely well. I'm super, super happy with that. I'm pretty impressed with that. So now I found this sticky little ruler thingy I'm going to put on there. I'll put this on there, and then that burl I showed you at the beginning of the video that I need this. I didn't go fancy with this because I need it today. So I'm going to cut that burl, and then I'll give you my final thoughts on this thing. It's perfect. It is perfect. I'm super, super happy with this jig. I wish I would have done it sooner, and that goes to show I only have about 30 minutes in this thing and maybe $10, and that's because I bought a whole box of screws instead of just a couple. Now, this gives me a chance to, I'm a big fan of making up stuff on the cheap, and then you figure out what you like, and then you can make a nice one. Well, what I would do different is, of course, I'd start off with a square piece of wood, but I would indent, I would rebate out this part where the tape measure goes. I might make a little bit bigger center finder. This is what I'm using this screw for here. Make a little bit bigger, a little bit more robust or whatever. It works fine though, but I really needed this today. This is going to be on one of my next videos, so if you're interested in that, go ahead and subscribe and click the bell and all that YouTube stuff. But I'm super, super thrilled with this. I wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel or anything. I just needed something to work today. And I had a little bit of glue time drying, and I pretty much had it. I'm super happy with it. These are perfect circles. Stick around for the next video, and y'all be good, be safe, and we'll see y'all next time.